I'm Lisa Bailey.
And I'm Patrick Bailey with iqless.com. Today is August 12th, 2016, and this is episode 1.
Woo.
So what's this all about? Well, I already have another YouTube channel, Whiteboard Coder, and I do a lot of videos there showing some programming stuff. Sometimes I'm fixing things around the house or doing some repairs. And that's what that channel's about.
So since he has previous channels, we decided to create another one that's more focused on the fact that we have decided to homeschool our kids this year. So we're going to kind of go through the process, since we're new to this, of what homeschooling is all about.
And we're going to try to make a couple different kinds of videos. So I hope that I may make some teaching videos, on how to do this or that might be unrelated to whiteboardcoder.com. And if I get to that, I'll put them on this channel. But also we want to do these episode channels. So this is episode 1, where we're going to kind of focus on what we're doing right now with homeschooling and kind of keep everyone up to date. And mostly it's about keeping ourselves honest in what we're doing so we can kind of, reflect and talk about things. So we're going to have these episodes. This is episode 1. So that is what we're doing. So I guess next we're going to talk about some of the history and how we got here. Okay, before we jump into all this, I thought it would be a good idea to go over how we got here and kind of what a crazy year we've had. We've had a real busy year. So first of all, kind of how we got here, why we decided to homeschool, I guess. So I have some questions I'll ask you and ask myself too. So before, what was your opinion on homeschooling before, 5, 6, 7 years ago, or even last year?
Well, I don't think I had a bad opinion of homeschooling. I guess I never really considered it because public school, in my opinion, was providing what I thought our kids needed. So I didn't have a bad opinion of homeschooling.
But you did have some experiences. My wife, Lisa, here is actually a teacher. She used to teach 6th grade over here in Colorado, in Grand Junction. And she had, you retired, and we've been raising kids ever since. But she did teach 6th grade, so she got a degree in that, and she teaches. And I know you told me some of the experiences in Grand Junction. Some of the homeschoolers, not all, were forced to homeschool because they got kicked out of school. Mm-hmm. So I remember you telling me that was your impression of some people, like they were I guess, I don't know what you'd say. You said, like, what you thought, perceived a decade ago was a good portion of the homeschoolers were homeschooling because they got booted out, right?
Well, I mean, if you think about it, if a student is continually expelled from a school, where else do they go but to be homeschooled? So that was my previous opinion, which I now know is totally not correct. In fact, when I was a teacher, I used to have some students that would come into my class just for that period, and they were homeschooled just so that they can get that class. And they were great kids. So my opinion has changed.
And as for me, my opinion's always been really positive. I can't remember a time it wasn't. Because I've known some homeschoolers, and I thought it was a great idea. In fact, I had a guy I used to work with who homeschooled, and his kids are grown up, and they're all out of the house now, I think. And so he did a great job with his kids. His kids were great, and he even, my sister-in-law and my brother, they homeschool too, and their kids are doing great. In fact, my friend who used to homeschool, he homeschooled throughout the entire process, and now they're older. He had an opportunity with the company I worked with that he actually went and worked for in Japan for a year. And so he brought the whole family, which would have been very difficult to do had he not been homeschooling. So I saw some of the really cool advantages you could do like that, because you're not on the school schedule. You can do weird things. You could go to Japan for a year if you had a job that did that. And he did, and that was kind of cool. So I've always been for it. But it doesn't matter how much I'm for it, because the way that our family is set up, I'm the breadwinner, quote unquote, and my wife stays home. And staying at home is a real hard job. It's all of us a hard job. But when we're in a situation like that, 70 to 90% of the work for homeschooling is going to be on her shoulders. So no matter how much I was for it, I couldn't, until she's for it, I can't, I never pushed it. I never talked about it all that much, because even though I was for it, we had a great school. and things were going fine up until this last year. And I can't, even though I was for it, even if there was a great school, I'm still for it and I want to do it. I've always wanted to do it, but there's no point in me pushing it because most of the burden would lie on you. So if you're not for it, it's like getting someone a job they don't like. And so, but now she's all for it, so that's what we're doing.
And the reason why I wasn't for it in the past is because I perceived our public school providing everything that our children needed, as far as academically and socially. So, until they sway me otherwise, I was just going to continue to go through the public school system with my 2 kids.
And the next question, what was a roadblock to homeschooling before?
I just answered it.
You just answered it, sorry. Yes, late. So, yeah, okay. And what happened this year to move you over to the homeschooling side?
Okay, so 2 things. First of all, I have 2 children. I have a son who is 12 and going into the 7th grade. And I have a daughter who's 8 and going into the 3rd grade. And with those 2, my son academically last year struggled. And it was his first year of middle school. And it almost seemed like, in my opinion, and I am way emotionally invested in this, in my opinion, I felt like he was somewhat academically neglected because he did not fit into the stereotypical public school box. So, unless you fit into that box, the teachers seem to not pay attention to him or give him some one-on-one time or try to advance him academically. So I found that really frustrating. And secondly, socially, 6th grade was a hard year for my son. It's a hard year, period. So he struggled not knowing how to act, what was the right behaviors, bullying issues, and I felt that we needed to pull him out of school because he was becoming more and more, what's the word?
Downtrodden?
Away from us. We needed to pull him back in towards the family. He was starting to dig himself into a hole that I don't think that we could get him in. And it didn't help that he academically was not performing very well. So, 2 reasons, socially and academically, for my son. My daughter, she very easily fits into the public school box, which also has a downside because I also noticed, and of course it depends on the teacher, that she was also somewhat neglected because teachers want to focus in on certain kids that don't fit outside that box. And so I thought that she was also not getting the academic attention that she needed because she's what I would consider rather smart. So she was kind of pushed to the side while the teachers were focusing on other kids.
And she fits in the box. So
she does.
Yeah, but don't take it as we're trying to run away from the system or trying to protect our kids from difficulties that happen in life. They're going to have enough difficulties that we don't coddle our kids by any means. And there's enough difficulty, as long as you're not coddling your kids and keeping them from any kind of pain, and we're not like that. If you're just normal, taking your kids out of school to protect them from a bad situation, this is in our case academically and socially, it's not a bad thing. They're still going to have plenty of struggles in life. It's not like we're protecting them and putting them in this little cocoon, because we are not. But yeah, also I saw with school, Lisa, you would spend 2 to 4 hours a day. I wouldn't say every day, 2 to 4 hours a day, 3 days a week at least, right? At school. Mm-hmm. She was one of those moms who volunteered and went to school and helped out. And so she was already spending lots of time. And she was willing to just go there and just help the teachers and do just even paperwork if they needed to. But even just doing that was just frustrating because you got to see your kids not getting the help they needed. Mm-hmm. And you got to see a lot of wasted time, especially in Colorado. They do a lot of ridiculous numbers of tests that don't really, tracking tests that don't really matter. So we just, with all that in mind, even if the school was great, even if there was no problem, like, because Kendall, I mean, she's being pulled back a little bit. She could go further if they let her. So like Kendall, she's doing fine overall. But we still know we could do better. If you sit there and take them at home, it's not that hard to do better. And we are in a situation, if anyone's set up for homeschooling, we are. Because you have your degree in homeschooling, in schooling. You know how to school, you've taught 6th grade, you know how to organize all that stuff. And all the stuff that most people consider difficult, as far as how you would teach, is stuff I've done. So physics, calculus, all the things that some people may find difficult, I can do. So we could do a lot better. But even with that in mind, if you're not if you don't think you're qualified, we have talked to people and seen situations where it is not that difficult to do better than the teachers. The teachers they're working hard, but they have 30 students, and then they have their administrators, and they have their programs. So they have all this stuff just pulling them down, making their life difficult, and they are working hard. I'm not dissing teachers. Teachers work hard. I mean, you were one. But when you have a one-on-one and you're trying really hard and you're talking with people and you're getting the stuff together, you don't need 7 college degrees to outdo the school. You could have a GED and outdo the school if you put your heart into it. So
ultimately, there's not really a magical answer for why choosing homeschool over public school is. I mean, you just go for it. So we're just going for it.
Yeah.
And we think that it's the right thing to do right now for our family. Now, that doesn't mean that years from now we might put them back. We're not quite sure. We'll reevaluate in a couple of years. But there's not really a magical one sentence answer for why we're choosing homeschooling. We just think it's the right thing for our children at this time. And honestly, we think that we can do a better job than what the schools are providing for our kids.
Yeah. It's going to be a lot of work, but it's valuable work. Like right now, but Lisa was, as an example, Lisa was already spending a lot of time in school and not getting much for it. But now she's spending more time, I would say at least double the time you were in school, and you are jazzed because before you go to school, you come, you're like, I spent all this time and you were just worn out. But now you're jazzed because it's the difference of doing something you want to do and you're enjoying. You have control. Well, now the next thing. So the next thing I want to talk about really quickly is just for anyone else out there who's having a year. We've had a year. And so we want to kind of go over briefly our timeline that we've had.
More like a year and a half.
Year and a half.
Academic year. Plus the summer.
And these are the highlights. So just to give anyone else encouragement who's having stuff happen while you try to start homeschooling. So in last October, our son broke his arm. Just normal kid stuff, broke his arm. He was overdue to break something, and he finally broke his arm, and we were kind of like, yay. And he got a cast, and life was good.
That was in October.
That was in October. And then in March...
hold on.
Oh, sorry.
Which I'm sure if you've had a child who breaks something, it put him behind academically because, we have doctor's appointments, and he can't use an arm to carry things. And so it's already putting him in a bad frame of mind about school, and it's pulling him back academically. And it didn't seem like in the school anybody was really there to help him. And I can't follow him around as a 6th grader. That's just not acceptable. So it was already starting the year off on a bad note.
So so he was already behind academically because I think the teachers, he got in a weird situation. I think he's a smart kid. He can do things just fine. Just got into a weird situation. So he was already behind, and the arm definitely took him further down. Mm-hmm. Then in March, we decided to homeschool. So we talked to everybody about that we're going to homeschool, talked to my sister-in-law, talked to your parents, talked to your father, and so they were all excited for it and on board. And at the time, we also talked, now that we're homeschooling, we don't have to live in the house we were living in. We were renting a condo that was in a really good school district, so we loved our school. It was a really good school overall. I don't want to diss the school. Great school. But now that we're homeschooling, we're like, we can move back to Aurora where her parents live. And so we discussed maybe schooling 1 year and staying there and then moving down to Aurora because we kind of like Aurora more than Boulder and the Boulder area where we're at. So anyway, but then the next month in April, your father passed away. Mm-hmm. So her father passed away, and so that was a hard blow. I'm glad we talked to him about it, that we wanted to homeschool, and he was all for it and excited for us. So that was kind of nice. And
then, unfortunately, my dad passed away at the beginning of April. My son broke his arm again at the end of April, and it was a really bad break, to the point where we had double the doctor's appointments, which ultimately led to him getting a plate and screws inserted in his arm. So
now when he goes through metal detectors, he beeps. Yes. We went through one the other day and he beeped. And I was like, I guess they do beep.
So, it was a tough year for my son. Middle school is a tough year altogether, 6th grade. And the fact that he had 2 broken arms in the same year and his grandfather passed away, it was a really hard year for him.
Yeah. And then come June, we found out, if you're not familiar with Colorado right now, the Denver area, the home prices are skyrocketing. And so we were renters, and so the guy we rented from for 9 years. And he finally decided he wanted to sell the place. So he said, hey, I want to go sell the place. So like, okay. I guess rather than staying here 1 year and move to Aurora, we'll go move now. And so we're getting ready to move and talk about that. But now that her father had passed, we went and talked to her mother. And so we decided we asked, and we all decided to move in. So now, if you've seen in my other videos, I usually have a bunch of junk behind me. But we've actually moved. I'm in a new place now, and so I haven't set everything up. So I have bare walls, which is very boring. But so now I live with my mother-in-law, which I love your mother. And so things are going good. She's excited. And she's still working. Okay, we had our camera cut off on that because I was filming too long because I'm too wordy. So the last thing we were talking about was my mother-in-law. So we moved in with my mother-in-law. We're here now. Life is pretty good. We've kind of adjusted. So we had to do this whole move this summer. So we've had a lot happen this year. It's been busy, but we're still excited about homeschooling. So on this next section, we're going to go over what our normal format's going to be for these episodes. And so here's, this may change over time, but here's our initial format. So we're going to do all these things that are kind of like since the last episode. So I have to make these different sections. So like, what are we studying? What have we bought since the last episode? What have we started doing? What have we stopped doing? Is there anything neat that has happened? What's been frustrating to us? And then chatting a little bit. So this being our first episode, it may go a little bit longer in these sections because we've bought a lot of things. Because this is our first one, so there's no before. So we've bought a lot of things, we've done a lot of things, we started a lot of things. We may go over a few more things. We're not going to go into as much detail because there's too many things. So next we'll follow that format. So next we're going to do, what are we studying? So what are we studying? And this is pretty much all going to be you because I haven't been so involved. I've been moving boxes. So what are we studying now?
So at the end of last year, academic year, that was the end of May, I gave my kiddos a month off, and I told them that starting the beginning of July, we would do a little bit of math for Corbin to get him caught up, and we would do some cursive handwriting for Kendall. So it is now August 12th, so it's almost been a month and a half, and every morning Corbin has worked on math, but we have gone back at least 2 grade levels in his math curriculum just to build up his confidence in math. It just seems like he was just hit so hard and kind of given the opinion that he was stupid when it comes to math, that we really wanted to build up his confidence. So I went a couple, and I told him about it, so he was okay with that. So I went back a couple grade levels and started in with math. And while Corbin and I were working on math, Kendall was working on cursive handwriting. So she's had a letter a day, a letter lowercase a day, and then eventually we'll go to a letter uppercase a day. Now, all of this is from a curriculum called My Father's World. It's a Christian-based curriculum, and after doing a lot of research on the internet and talking to a lot of homeschool moms, this is the one that I'm going to go with this year. So when it comes to math, prior to 6th grade, they recommend Singapore math. So my son and I have been going through Singapore math, and over the month and a half that we've gone through right now, we've actually done almost a year's worth of math. So we're really going through it quickly, just kind of filling in the holes and, like I said, building up his confidence.
Trying to catch up. Because sometimes, like, I'm an engineer, right? I have a mechanical engineering degree. And so sometimes you think you see the engineer in your kid, or if you're a musician, you see the musician in your kid. I see the engineer in both my kids. So Corbin, he can do the math. He understands it. But I think he got tripped up a little bit along the way, and then his arm broke, and so he kept getting more and more tripped. And the way they were teaching and handing assignments was weird, in my opinion. And so all of a sudden, he just lacked the confidence, and all of a sudden, he just thought he was bad at math. And I don't think he is. So you called up the My Father's World, and this, by the way, this is their website, and they walked through you and said, "Oh yeah, go. Don't feel bad about going back 2 or 3 grades and starting all over again." And so that's what you've done, and I think it's been great because it's been building up his confidence, and now he's almost, why do I have to do this? This is so easy.
Yeah.
And so it's like, yeah, just do it, And so now his confidence is coming back. He's not to grade level yet, but he will be.
We're hoping that by hopefully Christmas, if not, maybe the beginning of February, we'll have him back on grade level, at least grade level from last year, 6th grade. So that maybe I can use a little bit of the remainder of the academic year to work on his 6th grade math. And
I've been too busy this week. We haven't officially started what we might call our school year yet, right?
It starts Monday. Today is Friday.
So we've been doing this catch-up, this light catch-up. That's why Kendall's only been doing cursive, and Corbin's only been catching up on this math. We haven't been doing a lot. So come next week, we're going to actually start the real curriculum.
Yep.
Which will still be catching up with math and still doing cursive, but to be more. I don't want to make it sound like we're only doing 2 things. No. We're doing 2 things over the summer.
Wouldn't that be nice if we're only doing 2 things?
Yeah. Although I think as time goes on, we'll probably be able to do more in 4 hours than what you can do in 8 hours in school.
Oh, absolutely.
I think.
Yeah. With a little one-on-one time and less downtime and more pattern to the child and what their learning style is and what their passion is and what they're into. I think they'll get a lot more out of this.
I think so too. Okay, so that's it for this section. Next, we're going to go on to what have we bought, and we have bought a lot of things because we're just starting out. So, okay, what have we bought since the last episode? But there was no last episode, so this is kind of everything. Now, last year, I put a monthly budget in for school stuff about $200 a month, and that included lunches and trips and all kinds of stuff, and that kind of seemed to suffice. So we kind of continued that, and we just kept that money into a ledger and put some money into an envelope. So I kept just putting $200 a month, and that's kind of our continual budget right now. I may up it, I may lower it, I don't know, but that's kind of what we did. So I kept putting that money in there, and then once the academic year started just now, we had to put a little bit more money in to buy books for the first time. And between Lisa buying things and looking over stuff, we got a little frustrated with keeping track of where the money was, because I keep anal track of money. And so I came up with this. So I made a Google spreadsheet that we could share so we could edit at the same time. But we had to split it up into 2 sections. So we split it up into books, because we know every year we're going to have to buy a certain number of books. And speaking of, next year, our book budget will probably be lower, I guess. And so our goal right now is to try to put, I think, $50 or $60 away into the book budget every month when we add our 200. And the rest will go into manipulatives and field trips. So we made this sheet so we could both track it and keep and see what's in the budgets. And speaking of, I learned what manipulatives were. Because in my mind, I was thinking consumables, but you don't consume erasers. Well, I guess erasers.
You consume erasers.
Consume erasers. But if you
don't consume a ruler.
Yeah. So manipulatives, because she's a teacher, manipulatives are stuff you can manipulate and touch.
Mm-hmm.
So, so she understands the word manipulative, and I did not. So, but now I do. So that's what we did. We put all this money in here. So we want to kind of go over what we purchased. Now, the big purchase, books. So you can see over here, we spent $1,100 on books. We went and bought the whole big curriculum from My Father's World. And the My Father's World, I guess, it's not their curriculum, if I can say that, right? They went out and found a math curriculum, a writing curriculum, I guess, and put it all together, and then put a lesson plan together for you and kind of put it all in one package.
For 1 year.
For 1 year. And they seem to have a really good plan. I don't want to go over that in detail right now because we don't have any time. But, so we bought the whole thing. And come next year, keep it on that plan. We're not going to spend that amount of money. We'll probably spend $600 or $700, I'm guessing.
Well, it should be less. Plus, as our younger daughter gets older, she'll be using things that our older son, has already used. So we're hoping that every year it gets less and less. But as of this first year, we just kind of bought the whole academic year curriculum. You can buy used, so don't think that you need to go out and spend that kind of money right away. I know that school districts have homeschool libraries that you can go and check out parts of their curriculum and bring them home, so you don't have to pay anything for them. You can also go on eBay or go on Amazon or even Craigslist and find things that are discounted. So if the cost of it is just a little bit too much in your mind, there are ways that you can get it for a discounted price.
Yeah, so you can do this a lot cheaper.
Mm-hmm. But we decided not to because this is our first year of homeschooling, and we kind of wanted our kids to start this first year with all fresh books, and also to show them that we value what we're doing. So we decided a long time ago that we were just going to buy all fresh books. Now next year, I guarantee I'll go to the local district here where they have a library that homeschool parents can check out of. I guarantee I'll be in there checking books out.
Yeah, and so don't feel like you have to spend this amount of money. It's an easy amount of money for us. It's like a car payment, but we don't have car payments. We have no debt, so we're not going to burden ourselves. We're not going to go spend money we don't have or money we can't afford. And you can do this much cheaper. But we thought, hey, it's kind of cool to have new books. And we can afford it. We won't go to the restaurant so much or this or that. But then on the other side, are manipulatives. Okay,
so all of our manipulatives so far are all about math.
Yeah.
So in the My Father's World curriculum, and both of my kids are in the Singapore math part. After about 6th grade, you start to do Saxon math, but both of my kids are in Singapore. But at the beginning of every book, they give you a list of possible manipulatives that you could use as you go through that book. So what I did is I sat down and looked at that list and also scanned through the book and decided, what would be really cool for my kids to look at and touch while they're learning some of these new math concepts. Now, of course, Corbin, he's just jetting right through them, although he still does like to handle the manipulatives. He's really jetting right through those books. So a lot of these are for my younger child, Kendall, who will eventually get to it. So a lot of these are math.
Yeah, and so we're probably going to spend more than most people would on this. Not to an extreme. We're not going to go buy a pony or something like that. But we'll probably spend more than most people. One, to show people, because it might be cool to do some videos on certain things. And two, we're kind of geeks. So we look at these things and, like I'll show this in a minute. We bought weights, masses, and I'm kind of thinking that's cool because I'm a physics nerd. And I think, wow, that's kind of fun. Well, you don't have to, but we'll be on the, as far as manipulatives go, we'll probably spend like on the high normal end. In other words, we're not going to be going and paying for trips to France to learn French, but we may spend a little bit more money to go buy a weight or a scale or some programming thing.
We just think they're cool.
We think they're cool. Yeah, we don't go on long vacations to France, so we'd rather spend our stuff on manipulatives, I guess. So But we're not spending crazy amounts of money, but not yet. But we'll never spend money we don't have. Anyway, so going over something manipulative. So I guess we can go down. Most of the stuff we got from Amazon. I guess I can look at my Amazon. So we got some. We got some rulers.
Yeah, rulers and
meter stick.
So one of the first books that my son went through, they compared metric weight and measurement with standard weight and measurement. So you know how hard it is to find a metric
scale.
Well, ruler.
Or a meter stick.
A meter stick. It's really hard, so I had to order one off of Amazon.
Yeah, yardsticks.
And also I had to find a scale, which isn't so difficult for grams, but I wanted one that had grams and pounds on it. So,
yeah.
And if you look through the book, they want the child to compare pounds and grams, so they actually tell the child, put a pound in one hand and put a kilogram in the other to see the difference.
So you first did that with rice, and then we thought it would be cool to get weight. So we went and we found.
I did it with rice because I didn't have these at first.
So we found, I think this one on Amazon. Let me see if I can find it. It was only there. It is. We spent $28 on it.
We did.
Okay, that was pretty cool. Okay, that's way too much, but it's kind of cool.
But it was hard to find.
But it's just 1 pound weight, so we got that. But then I went and found this weight set on eBay. I think I spent $35 on it. Let me see. Yeah, $35. Because there's these OHAUS weight sets, and there's a bunch of used one on eBay. So these are kind of cool. I'm sure if you buy them new, I think they can go into the hundreds and hundreds because of their precision. So if you're some physics professor, you want it to be plus or minus 0.00% or whatever, and that is expensive. Me, if they're off by 1%, I don't care. So go find these OHAUS used ones. They're kind of cool and heavy.
Really cool.
And when we found, it was missing the gram, but it had everything else. So it has a kilogram. So that was.
And the kids have really liked to look at these. So I think it was well worth it.
Yeah, so that's too much money on weights, but it was kind of cool.
It was really cool.
Other things we got. You got shapes. You got fractions and shapes.
So in the next
right there.
book, we're going to go over fractions, which, once again, my son knows pretty well, but I'm kind of preparing for my daughter. So I got the fraction bars that are color-coded.
Yeah, so they're pretty cool. So they show, this is a 1/6, 1/4. And on the back side,
there's percentages.
They actually show percentages.
And so on the third side, they show the decimal.
Oh, the third side?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And the cool thing is I also found a square. So you'll get a square that's one whole. And then the next layer will be a square that's cut in half, so it shows fractions. And the colors on here correspond with the colors in here. So you have 2 things for the kids to look at.
But these don't have any writing on them, right?
No, they don't.
But that's
okay, because the writing's on here. And I also found a circle, which also corresponds with the colors. So, it's kind of cool that you can have the bar fractions and the square fractions and the circle fractions all there together, showing different ways that fractions happen. And actually, this actually in the book, where, they take a square and then they cut it in half to show half. And so
the kids haven't fiddled with those yet, but I think they're going to be cool.
Yeah.
Other one we got money. So we got this play money set, which is actually, it costs more, but we like it because it's the right size and it comes with a
holder. It's hard to find a holder to keep everything together.
Wooden case. So the kids used it.
They've already played with it. They've already set up a store.
And they're making change. I had to go earn money.
Yes, you did.
I had a job. I had to go write stuff down to earn money so I could buy stuff in the store. But they were making change, so I think that was for $20. That wasn't bad.
Nope.
The other thing we got that I think is really cool is a Judy clock. Just huge.
It is huge.
So, but it's for a classroom, so it's a little overkill. So we found this.
There is a smaller version, so
there's a smaller one
without the digital.
Oh, the digital's cool. So we got this at Walmart.com and had it picked up at the store. So the cool thing is, I don't know if I can show this very well. I'll try. It's geared. It's geared, so as they turn it, you can hear these clicking. So you can put it to a time, and there's this little red area down there. And so this is like a window they can open. And so
it's a digital.
Can say that's 3, 3:03. That is totally wrong. Oh, 3:30. Oh, 3:33. There we go. So, and they can check their time. So you can put the time up, and then they can reveal it and check it. So it's pretty cool. Another thing to note in case this happens to you is when you click past the hour, it's got a big click. And so sometimes that messes up, and it turns out we had the hour get off by about 2 hours. This thing actually changes the hours in case it gets off on the digital area. So you get a coin, and you can turn it. And so that was...
But it's nice to have the gears. I mean, you can go... I was thinking about just going to a thrift store and just buying a clock to show the kids. But it's nice that it has the gears so that you don't, have to move the shorthand or the hour hand to 4 and the minute hand to 1. It actually gears, and so you can actually see the movement.
Yeah.
So that's why I liked it.
And it was, $30? We got it from Walmart. It's pretty cool.
And I know a lot of teachers have those in their classrooms.
Yeah. So. I even saw some little tiny ones that you could give the kids, and so you could share it. But a little overkill, but that's kind of what we have bought so far. And so far, we geek. There's another reason I had to put the manipulative budget is because as much as I geek out on these things, she geeks out worse. And so at first, she was buying a few of these things. I was like, yeah, go buy it. You got it in the budget. But I hadn't made this budget for her. So she didn't know how much was left. So she kept going, do I still have money left? Because she's a spender. And if you give her money, if you give her $200, she will spend it. She will spend it well. But it's nice to... Me, I'll just hoard it and keep it because I'm an idiot. But she will spend it and spend it well. So it's nice to know how much money she has in her budget so she can spend it on cool stuff and not freak out when she goes and buys something she can't afford. So, So that's what we're doing. We're adding $200 every month. 60 is going to go to books for the future, and the rest is going to go to manipulatives. Hopefully that's enough. If not, we may up to 300 at some point. But I don't see us doing much more than that. Except for maybe some special trips, but that's what that field trip money should be for too. Only thing, I don't know if I said it before, is we had to add a little bit more for books because we didn't put enough in over the summer, and we knew that. So when we went to go buy books, we had to throw another $620 in. So
something else that you might want to put with your manipulatives and field trips are also lessons. Like swim lessons, piano lessons, things like that. So
yeah, which we're not doing now. So that may
not yet.
That may be why I would bump up to $300 because also if we start taking piano lessons or swimming lessons, it adds up, and so that may mean I need to add more. So that's what we bought so far. So next we're gonna go over what have we started doing. So okay, what have we started?
Well, on top of over the past, since the beginning of July, so almost a month and a half, working on math with my son and cursive with my daughter over the summertime. I've also registered them. Our local school district here has a 1 day per week homeschool classes that starts approximately 8:45 in the morning till I think 2:30 in the afternoon, where they will teach my kiddos, science and art, some of those topics that might be a little bit more difficult for parents to teach. Art is really not my forte, so I'm glad they have an art class. All the other ones I can pretty much handle, but it's nice to get them out and being taught by somebody else. And they know the routine pretty well because they're coming from a public school. So I've been registering them for that class, and we had like an open house 4 days ago, so they met all their teachers. So that's what we've been working on. Also, 3 days ago, we received all of our books from the My Father's World curriculum. So I have meticulously been going through all of those books over the past 3 days, taking notes on everything I'm reading and highlights, and coming up with a supply list of things that I not only need to buy for the My Father's World curriculum, but also a supply list for things I need to get for the Monday classes that my kids are going to do, and then more notes, more things that we're doing. So that's what I've been doing this past week.
So a lot of organizing.
Lots of organizing, and you're using the book that the My Father's World people actually create, so week by week lesson plans. And I'm just adapting them, tweaking them just a little bit for my kiddos. And so I've come up with, next week we start class. So I've come up with their weekly lesson plans, and it's front and back. For our first week of homeschool. We'll see how it goes. It's not supposed to be that difficult this first week because I want them to, establish a good work habit and have a good attitude about what they're doing, although there's going to be times when those things don't happen. So that's what I've been doing this past week. It's lots of research, lots of reading, lots of taking notes, and lots of shopping for supplies.
Yeah, and so the My Father's World provided almost identical. They had an exact lesson plan, which I guess you could just follow that, right? You'd be okay.
You could, yeah. It looks something like that.
You're free to tweak it, so obviously we're going to tweak it a little bit. Although we're probably following a lot of it, right?
We are. I just tweaked the schedule because I wanted to make sure that when I'm teaching math, so when I'm teaching math Corbin in the morning time, Kendall at that same time has some activities that she can do pretty independently. And then we switch. And Kendall does math in the afternoon, right around lunchtime. And during that same time, Corbin can do some activities that are pretty independent so that I can help them with their math. And then for geography, social studies, science, and in the morning when we do some Bible verses, we come together for those. And then English, language arts, reading, they're done individually by themselves with my help.
So that's what we've started.
Lots of shopping.
And what have we stopped? I guess we're just beginning, so I haven't really stopped anything per se.
Not that I know of.
We've stopped moving. So I've stopped putting boxes in the basement. There's still a little bit of cleanup to go through, but we've stopped moving. Does that count? Stop moving.
I've also bought some shelves to organize books.
Oh.
And cubbies and a book basket. And so when I say supplies, it's kind of like setting up an area where your kids can go to find their books and supplies and glue and all that stuff. So
yeah, I guess you need to set up an area. So, and that's still in process. It's pretty much set up, but
it will adjust to how things go.
Yeah, it's not like it's taking over. It's just an area. It may take over. Okay, next. Anything neat that has happened? Kids' attitudes?
Yeah, Corbin, although he still hits some roadblocks in his math, I think he gets more frustrated that this stuff is really easy in math.
Oh.
Which is good. That's how we kind of want him to be. But I'm starting to see his confidence build up, and Kendall has really done well with her cursive. I don't even have to help her anymore. She does a letter a day, and she looks at the book and sees the strokes that they tell you to do, stroke 1, stroke 2, and she pretty much does it on her own. In fact, last night, she did her work last night that she was supposed to do this morning because she didn't want to do any work this morning. Well, I'm okay with that.
Oh, that's kind of how it works, right?
I'm okay with that.
Yeah. And we're teaching cursive. It's kind of weird. The schools have finally stopped teaching cursive, which is weird.
It takes up time.
And they use that time to take more stupid tests. I don't mean normal tests. Hey, you have to take tests, but they have these Iowa Basics on crack. They keep taking more and more, I want to say placement tests. They keep wasting time with unnecessary tests. And people may say, oh, you don't need cursive. Okay, you don't need band. You don't need art. These things are important. And this is coming from a guy who's a physics guy who just wants to do math all the time. I understand art is important. Cursive is important. I think it uses a different part of the brain. And so someday my kids will write in cursive, and the only people who will be able to read it are the other homeschool kids, which is kind of sad. Anyway, okay. Next section. What has been frustrating?
Well, I think this happened to me every year that I taught also as a teacher is you just get bombarded with all this information right before school starts. with all the lesson plans and all the curriculum and all the books and all the supplies and the timeline and the students. And so you have so much just coming at you about a week or two before you get started. And I feel like that right now. But I also know from teaching for 7 years that right after that first day, and especially after that first week, a lot of that kind of goes away because you get into a routine and things start to make sense. So I haven't looked into the spelling program yet, and I haven't looked into Corbin's science yet. I still need to look through those and put those on his weekly lesson plans. So there's still a lot more I have to do. So that's probably the frustrating part, is there's a lot of work that needs to be done, but it'll get better.
Okay, so that's almost our last section. Our last section is just chatting, which we've done a lot of chatting already in this, so we're probably not going to chat much. So, but I did have one question, because I like I said before, she's doing 70 to 90% of this, so sometimes I'm playing catch up to even understand what's going on. So with My Father's World, it was my understanding, that if they're doing geography, they're both taking the same class at the same time, although they have different assignments.
Yeah.
So when you teach geography, you're going to teach them at the same hour.
Yeah, and My Father's World is a great interactive part of it, where you actually type in your kid's name and how old they are, and it will actually show you year by year where they need to be. They do a great job. You really need to really research that website. But yeah, so in the morning we wake up and do they call it a Bible section, and so we do that together, where we'll have to write a verse and dictate a verse and take a test. So it's just getting them familiar with verses in the Bible. Math, they're separate because they're on different levels.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Language arts, English, they're on separate levels, so those are individual. So, but there's some that we do together. We do what they call geography, because this is this year our two kiddos are doing exploring countries and cultures. So it's more world geography, the humanities kind of thing. And my kids will do that together. And they both have the same thing on their lesson plans about what we're doing that time. And then Corbin has a little extra bonus part where he has to maybe do some extra work in an atlas to help him with that concept. Do a little bit of extra writing and answering some questions. And the same thing with the science. They do the science together. Mm-hmm. And then Corbin, and I've called it advanced work. Corbin, and I've marked it on his lesson plans with a little squiggly. This is advanced work.
Yeah. So
he knows that Kendall doesn't do that part. He'll also have another advanced work for science. But My Father's World says over and over again, your older kid and your younger kid can work together on a lot of these things. Even though they're a 4 years difference, we still need to know geography, and we still need to know the basics of science. And then you just add a bonus part, an advanced work section for your older kid.
Okay, that's what I thought. Okay, good. I understood it correctly. So I guess that's kind of it. So overall, we're happy. We're starting out. We've done a lot of preparatory work. You have, and I guess next week we're starting into what we might call full-time homeschooling. This summer we were just doing catch-up. Mm-hmm. So next episode we have might be more interesting, because we'll actually be doing, or you'll be doing more work. I'm helping. I'm doing stuff. I will be helping, but she is going to bear the burden of 70-90% of it, because that's just
let's go right in between and just say 85
or 80, I don't know. Anyway, so that's the end of this episode 1, and hopefully we'll make many more, and hopefully people out there find this useful, and hopefully it becomes an interesting adventure, and just hopefully it's a good adventure, and hopefully it helps our kids out. And I think I'm very hopeful. I think everything's going to go very well. So, any last words? Nope.
Let's go.
Let's go.